On Saturday, the FAI celebrated the centenary of the association with a game at the Aviva Stadium. We hosted the world's number one team in the soccer rankings, Belgium, which the soccer rankings aren't precise and they're certainly not scientific, but Belgium, when they feel their strongest team, have got some very important players. Kevin De Bruyne would be a good example. Romelu Lukaku. They didn't play any player with over 50 caps. Roberto Martinez, the Belgian coach, decided to leave out and play a second 11. But it was a very experienced second 11 indeed, and some very good players in it. Players with real experience. Tielemans, for example, Leicester City player. I think most of the top clubs would be looking at him. Then Donker of Wolves, another player people would know. Batshuayi, who's a Chelsea player on loan in Turkey at Besiktas at the moment. Thorgan Hazard from Borussia Dortmund, who's Eden Hazard's brother, less well known, but a very good player. So they had a strong and experienced team. Also, a guy called Tossard, who is a very good player for Brighton. He played as well. And so Ireland, short of one or two players who weren't fit, Gavin Bazumbu, the goalkeeper in particular, Adamida up front, who's out for the season, were among the players missing for Ireland. But it was an important game. The fans have now really got behind Stephen Kenny's team. It's a young, inexperienced team. We have our own veterans as well who do very well for us. It was a big occasion, a big crowd, and I'm joined now by John Giles to discuss the match and indeed his own presence in the stadium. John, it was the centenary of the FAI, the game was to mark the centenary, and you got a special award. You, I think, Paul McGrath and a couple of other of our great players.
That was quite a few, Eamon. Yeah, it was very, very, very good day in terms of, there were players from different generations, obviously, and it was good thought, and it was very good. They did it very, very well.
Right. Now, John, Stephen Kenny, I know that I was certainly pro Stephen, and you were pro Stephen too when he was appointed, and he's had a rough ride, it has to be said. Lots of bad luck, playing in an empty stadium when the COVID crisis pandemic was here. Also, big name players being injured for crucial moments. Very unlucky against Portugal away, which is the last time we lost, when Ronaldo produced his magic late on in the game. A game we really could have won 2-0 because we had a good penalty claim refused. But they're on a bit of a roll under Stephen. John, I kind of very impressed by Stephen's character and his courage and the way he approaches the game. It's taken a while for things to fall into place, but there was evidence in the last few games, and certainly on Saturday, I thought, that, given the players at his disposal, some of them very good and experienced, some of them playing in the lower leagues, he's doing a good job.
Oh, he's definitely doing a good job, Eamon. I mean, he started off badly, as we know, getting into it.
Yeah.
But the last 5, 6, 7 or 8 matches, it's definitely come around his way. I think Stephen is a football lover.
Yes.
Eamon. I think he loves the game. He loves to do and see what he wants to see from his team. And, I'm very, very pleased for him. And I think getting a new contract, Eamon, or the extension of the contract, is very good for him and indeed for the players.
Yes.
Eamon. Because players want to know, are we playing for this guy?
Yeah.
Or are we not going to be playing for this guy?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And it gives that sense of real meaning for the players that we're all in it together. This guy's not leaving, because that was the situation beforehand. So for the morale of the team, I think it's great. And for Stephen to get the best out of the players, which all managers are trying to do, was a big step in the right direction for him.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's held against Stephen, and when you look at the kind of history of the game, which both of us are very well aware of, was that he hadn't managed or coached really in England. He had only got League of Ireland experience. It was very fruitful experience, particularly at Dundalk. And of course, he wasn't a big name player or anything like that. So I thought it was a sign of us as a people not appreciating and respecting our own. But he's proven that's nonsense, really. I think he...
It always was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the great managers of recent times, where did Mourinho play?
No, he didn't play at all. Arsene Wenger.
Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
You know, these some of the great managers of all time haven't been outstanding players.
Alex Ferguson springs to mind, John. He was a kind of journeyman.
He was a good player. He was a good player playing in Rangers.
Yeah.
But he wasn't one of the great players by any means.
Right.
And if you look at some of the great players who went into management, like Bobby Charlton, for example, who was the best player I ever played against, and one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
Wasn't made for management.
Roy Keane springs to mind in that regard as well.
Yeah, Roy did his stuff at Sunderland. But they haven't been great managers,
No.
so it definitely it's never been the case that look at Thierry Henry, who's one of the great players of recent times.
Yeah,
it's so it was never ever correct about Stephen, in my opinion, going into management, and he's done it, and he's proven himself right. I mean, it's come around. He's gone his way now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll continue to go that way.
Yeah, and I mean, you've held this job, you held it for 7 years, and you transformed the way the FAI approached football and the way the players were treated, and of course, the style of players as well. But it is a tough job, and the media were very unforgiving in your time, and they can be very unforgiving, and I'd include myself in that sort of category, if you like. But now... And Saturday's match was a good example of this. First of all, he had a couple of players missing. Gavin Bazuma, the goalkeeper, who's been so impressive. But we have a great, well, I wouldn't even call him a second choice, Caoimhín Kelleher, who's from Cork, who's doing his stuff at Liverpool and was started in the team that won the Carabao Cup. But, you know, we were missing... quite a few players, most significantly Adam Ida, I think, because he's a goal scorer. He leads the line, and scoring goals has been difficult and is difficult. Nevertheless, the way they started, they gave a bad goal away early in the game. I thought it was a bad goal. Batshuayi scored it. I know we talked on the phone yesterday. You thought it was a great goal. I just thought Seamus Coleman might have showed him down the line and put him on his wrong foot. But he was able to cut inside Seamus and then struck real quick. Yeah. But you thought it was a better goal than that.
From their, you know, if you look at it from their point of view, which we're not, it was a well taken goal. I mean, he came inside Seamus Coleman, and he didn't waste. He didn't give our keeper a chance to get settled.
No, he didn't.
On it.
Yeah,
took it really quickly, whipped it, and really, really top class goal.
Yeah. Now, just on Seamus, I thought he played well in the game. I thought there were times when we needed a pick-up and he was always there driving forward. There was some brutal criticism of him by Jamie Carragher after an Everton match a couple of weeks ago, that he was 33, he didn't have the pace anymore, and people were taking advantage of him and making him a target. I didn't agree because I haven't seen it. I mean, I have a high regard for him as a person and as a footballer, and I haven't seen any noticeable slowdown.
No, but I wouldn't take it too much what Jamie Carragher would say anyway, to be quite honest. Yeah. And I think what's happened with Seamus Coleman, Everton are having a bad time, as we know,
yes.
Eamon. Now, people in the game in the newspaper will say, well, right, we have to get a reason for that.
Yep.
And they usually pick out the eldest player who's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And that happens to be Seamus Coleman at Everton, as you know.
Yeah, and there's another thing about Seamus, John, when you are struggling in a game, he'd be the one taking the most responsibility. So he'd be more likely the one to be in trouble.
Exactly, Eamon. He's the one that would stand out as, okay, yeah. who's at fault here? Seamus Coleman. He's not playing as well as he. Now, I've heard it all before with that. I mean, Seamus Coleman. I think he's 33 now, around that particular mark. That's what it's an easy target. That's what you find in football.
Yes.
Instead of trying to analyse the game, saying exactly what's happening at Everton, right? Seamus Coleman standing out there, right? That's him.
Yeah.
He's the eldest man. He's gone past it. He's making mistakes. I haven't seen that.
No, I haven't
seen that. Of course,
he's
made a few mistakes. Everton are in a terrible state.
Yeah.
And Seamus Coleman will always come to the fore to do what he can about that situation. So he's always going to be a target. I thought he played really, really well.
Yeah.
At the weekend. Really well. And any time I've seen him for Everton had sometimes been rubbish. He's still one of the better players in it. I don't go along with it at all. Seamus Coleman is a great character,
yes.
as we know, over the years. He's always out there, always giving his best. He loves the game. He loves playing for his country. He loves playing for Everton. I don't see it, but usually those type of players are the ones that will receive the criticism, because all the other guys at Everton who are not doing their stuff are not getting out there to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Seamus Coleman would be the easy target, and I think that's what's happened there. Well, Seamus Coleman was really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good at the weekend. So I've seen it so many times before, Eamon. When players get a little bit older, they don't play as well as they have done. And I said, he's the one that's at fault.
And
that's Seamus Coleman.
Yeah, there's one other factor in that equation. Especially for a defender, a lot of the time, in the last act of a move where the ball goes in the net, it could be Seamus that would be closer to it, because he's probably trying to be on the cover for someone else who wasn't doing it. I mean, that's another thing that if you haven't played the game, you don't quite get it. But, you can put yourself in situations, or you can hide.
Yeah, that's what happens, Emma. See, when a team's having a bad time, the players who don't do it hide.
Yeah.
You get out of the way, and the really good lads stand out there, and they get all the criticism.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened to him. Like, it hasn't happened with the Irish team, and there's been no criticism that I've heard of, really, with the Irish team.
No, not at all.
He's played really well. It's at Everton. Everton are having a bad time. But Everton, people want to look around at 10 or 11 other players in the Everton team.
Yeah.
I could name a few of them. I won't name them now. But one of them wouldn't be Seamus Coleman.
No. Now, we got 1-0 down, John. It's very early in the game. They were an experienced team. I mean, I mentioned Tielemans, then Donker. They had a fella called Tossard from Brighton, who's a very, very good player. Eden Hazard's brother, who's playing for Borussia Dortmund. They had a player who plays for AC Milan. They had a player from Lyon. They had that dodgy goalkeeper too that Liverpool had for a while, Mingele. But they controlled the tempo of the game, I thought, Belgium, and that early goal allowed them to do that. And we had to work like dogs to get back in the game, but we did. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a good it was a good start for them, definitely. And again, if the team is not in the right way, I'm talking about the Irish team now, you can collapse. We've seen it before. In our day, Eamon, it used to happen. We'd collapse, and that'd be because we'd no organisation, we'd no management, we'd nothing. But the Irish team in that way responded well, and that's what happens in matches. You lose. Sometimes you get in front, you have to play in a certain way. Sometimes you go behind. Obviously, you got to fight harder to get into it, which they did, and got into it well. Because, as you said, they weren't playing against a team of mugs. These were a lot of good players in this particular team that could have done real danger to the other, but they stuck at it and got back into the game, as we know. So overall, really good performance. Yeah, and the crowd have taken to the idea of Stephen and the idea of these young players, and many of them are young, not all of them. I mean, I thought Jeff Hendrick played great on Saturday. Now, the best I've seen him play, Eamon. Yeah, both of us, I think, have been critical of Jeff, but he really has put it in for Stephen. And I thought on Saturday he was really, really good. Yeah, he deserves to be in the team. I mean, he's a very, very talented lad, as we know, and he seemed to go astray there for a while. But certainly on Saturday, he did a big job. He did a big job for Stephen. He was very, very good at a time when the team needed him to be good. Yeah.
And that's the sign of a good player and a good team man.
Yeah, now we're strong at the back, John. We always really have been. We've got Shane Dunphy, who's a brilliant lad. John Egan, who's a very good player, John, playing at Sheffield United. Matt Doherty, I thought, played really, really well. So we're well off in relative terms, for defenders. Doherty in particular, I thought, played well.
Yeah, Doherty's a very good footballer.
Yeah.
He's a good footballer. And he's a wing back, as we know.
Yeah.
And he does a good job on that. And I think when in a team now, the Irish team, we're not defending all the time.
Yeah.
We have a fair share of the ball. And he's a really good footballer.
Yeah.
And I think when you play like wing backs like Doherty, you're always taking a bit of a chance in a defensive situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have to really do the stuff on the ball. Obviously, then they don't have to defend as much. And he's a really, really good footballer. Really good footballer. He played really well on Saturday.
Now, the game changer for Ireland in the first half was the goal. Chidozie Ogbeni. He's 24. He's playing for Rotherham. That was only his sixth cap. He scored 3 goals for Ireland. And I think he's a fantastic character. He graft. He made the second goal with a really good cross. He didn't just bang it in there, but he gave energy, brought energy to the front line, led the line, and scored a really good goal.
Oh, sure, yeah, fantastic goal at the right time,
yeah,
as well, at a necessary time.
Yeah,
and yeah, game lad as well.
Yeah,
Eamon. He's taking his goals well in his game as well. I mean, he's a lot to do up front. Because Robinson's a very good player and a good goal scorer.
Yeah, but he doesn't put himself about.
He doesn't kill himself working.
No.
He's not going to be dashing around like this kid. But this kid proves, Eamon, that you can dash around and still score.
Absolutely, yeah. Another,
yeah.
There's the in midfield we had Jeff Hendrick, we had Josh Cullen, who plays for Anderlecht. Now he doesn't look like a stellar. He's not a Wes Hoolahan. He's not really a playmaker. He's a solid, intelligent lad, works hard. He's not afraid to put his foot in. We had him and Jason Knight. Jason Knight's only 21, John. I don't think he played in his right position on Saturday. But he's playing at Derby County, and I've seen him a lot in the Championship. He's going to be a hell of a player. He's a very, very good player. He worked like a dog, though, for Stephen, and he was taken off about 15 minutes from the end. But he had done a shift, a big shift.
Yeah, he's very, very promising, Eamon.
Yeah.
Very promising lad. And one of the games we played away, do you remember that?
Yes.
Fairly recently when we won, I think. He changed the game. He came on the sub and changed the game.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, and he's a worker. Cullen is a worker.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Cullen gets the job done, Eamon, in a certain way. He's not, as you say, he's not classical on the ball.
No.
But he gets the job done, which is the main thing, I mean, you see a lot of lads who are look good on the ball, I mean, don't get the blooming job done.
No, and he shows a bit of leadership, a bit of quality. He's an ever-present in the Anderlecht team in the Belgian league at the moment. And the thing about all these players, and you've been manager of the Irish team, and I've just been a player, you do need a little bit of time at international level. It is a step up for a lot of these guys. I mean, Jeff Hendrick's playing for QPR now, Shane Duffy at Brighton, John Egan, Sheffield United, and Ogbeni is playing for Rotherham in League One. Jason Knight playing for Derby County, who are struggling in the Championship because of a points deduction. So it's a big step up, John. But
the thing is with international football, I mean, you have to. You're not in control of what's available.
No, they're your players. That's it.
At a club level, you can buy a player in that's if you have the few bob. You need a right back, you can buy him in, or a left, you can buy him in. You can't do that at international level.
No.
You go with what's available to you, and you have to make some most of it, and that's why it's a difficult job. And now in Stephen's case, he's making a good job of it. Started off slowly, as we know, the results weren't good. But with these players that you mentioned coming in, they're available to him, and he has to make the most of them, which he's doing.
Now, John, when you're managing an international team, as you know, you have to live with the players you've got. There's no transfer market. You can't go out and buy a new centre forward. So Stephen has this squad. There's no high profile names in it. There's no Liam Brady's, John Giles's, Robbie Keane's, or any of that. But he really is doing a hell of a job in the way, and you could see it on Saturday, really, against a more experienced team, coming from behind twice, the way they did it, pass the ball, movement, keep your discipline, was very impressive.
Yeah, it's the most impressive thing, Eamon, is to come back from the goals, have the spirit to do it. In other words, when you have any players at your disposal as a manager, Eamon, you can only make the best of them, as we know. I mean, that's quite obvious. But it's creating the spirit for those players to come back from the goal, you know. And whatever way you do it, then you have to do it. And Stephen is doing that really, really well. I mean, if you've got, in England's case, you've got Harry Kane and players and loads of players there that we know about. You know, Stephen doesn't have it. An Irish team, you don't have that good, great players to speak from. They're few and far between anyway. I mean, so what you got to create, which Stephen has done, a spirit of no give in, keep going, and do the very best that you possibly can. And that's the only thing that you can get from the players. And he's getting that, obviously, because the way they responded on Saturday was very, very, very good against a good team, despite the fact that obviously we know they didn't have all their stars out. But they were still a good team. So they had to come back from it, and they did it and showed their spirit extremely well.
Now, tomorrow night, John, we play Lithuania, and obviously it's a much different test, and it should be a much easier test than Belgium. It would be nice to see Troy Parrott play, and nice to see Chidozie Ogbeni get another goal or two, because he was really the standout player in a way at the weekend, making the second goal as well.
Oh, he's very good, Eamon. He's a worker.
Yeah.
I've seen Parrott play a few times, Eamon.
Yeah.
I must say, I'd like to see more from him in terms of effort.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I'd like to see. He's a big fella now. He's got ability, but I just think, well, come on, move, get in there and show the same attitude as this kid you're talking about. You know, Ben.
Yeah,
you know, like attitude, a bit of go, a bit of in, and I haven't seen that in him yet at all.
Right. Now, he's a different kind of player. He's a kind of cool dude, you know, and he glides around the place, and then bang. This is what Stephen tells me now. As I say, there's one or two other people I've talked to about him who say he is the real deal, but he's been unlucky with injuries and stuff. But he might play against Lithuania.
Now, first of all, I hope so, Eamon. With Parrott, I hope he is what they talk about. I just haven't seen it yet, you know.
No, of course not.
Because we need somebody up there, like as we know, to do what needs to be done there, and like when Stephen knows him better than anybody else. I mean, he's had him in the youth team and that, hasn't he?
He has under 21s, He has. He's had a lot of these lads. And that's the other thing about him, actually. He knows where the players are. He knows where the best coaches are, too. And I think it's good that we have an Irish manager who's based here, who's in touch with the game here, who does his homework before games, isn't overawed by the opposition, never talks up the opposition to give himself an out afterwards in case we get a bad result. I think he's got courage, and I think he knows his stuff, and I wish him well. I'm sure I know you do as well.
Of course, Eamon. I think Stephen loves the game, Eamon.
Yeah.
He actually loves the game, which is a big start, you know, in football. You know, he's not looking around him. He loves the game. I don't think it's a money thing with him or anything like that. I think he wants to do it. He loves the game. I wish him all the best. I hope young Parrott becomes what he hopes him to be, because he knows him better. He knows much better than I do. I only see him and say, well, come on, give us a bit more, then let's show a bit more. But Stephen knows him well, and hopefully it comes through, and he could hopefully be a top player for us, Eamon.
Anyway, for the moment, John, this Irish team giving us reasons to be optimistic, and the bad start that Stephen got off to is over.
Yeah.
The people seem to love the team, the fans, and the media's turning around. So for now, all good.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, Eamon, it keeps going.
Okay, John, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm very grateful to John, of course, as I know all of our listeners are.